So I'm becoming more black-pilled by the day. And the reason is because you've got things like HR1 out there. You've got the Senate in control of a bunch of complete crazy people. The House, the Senate, all three branches of government. It's insanity. Um, they're printing money and giving money to large corporations and foreign countries. The majority of the money, this 1.9 trillion. By the way, not everybody should be getting stimulus money. Doesn't make any sense to me. From just the standpoint, right now, I don't think any more stimulus should go out. But if you're going to do stimulus, you target the businesses that you destroyed, and you pay for whatever it would cost to get those businesses back up and running. That's what you do. And people who've been displaced by that whole thing that happened last year, whether they lost their job, whether they lost their business, whether they were affected financially, had to take a job. You got people who much higher up on the food chain coming down to work at places like Burger King and McDonald's, Wendy's, because guess what? They can't get a job back in their other field because of what happened last year. And you see this a lot during difficult economic times. I think the economy would have come back already if we opened the country. All right. And there's no reason at this point not to open the country. Whether you believe in the vaccines or not, it doesn't matter. At this point, I would say open the country and let the chips fall where they will. Virus gonna do its thing. You could see states with completely different approaches to this getting very similar results. That's all I'm going to say about it. So what's left? What's left? Our country right now is hyper divided, and it seems what's left of the mainstream news media wants to continue that division. And it's psychologically damaging to everyone out here, because there are people who would like to try to get along with other people. Maybe some progressives out there would like to say, okay, truce on all the culture BS that we don't agree with you on. Some, not all. The media seems to love to wedge that issue in there every time. And they're doing it. They'll do it. They'll find a way to inject race or gender or some kind of a thing into something that nobody's even thinking about. It's like you walk away going, who thinks like this? You wake up in the morning and you're worried about these things that most Americans aren't worried about. What they're worried about is making ends meet. What they're worried about is, why is gas almost $3 a gallon now where I live, and it was $2 a gallon a few months ago? And don't tell me not to drive, okay? Last year, I barely drove at all. I didn't drive half as much. So there should be a nice big surplus. Gas prices should be like $1 a gallon right now. But, in some countries, they didn't have that problem because they just did business as usual. And then there are other countries that aren't really concerned about, how much fossil fuel they use and so forth. So we're living in a weird world where certain rules apply to other countries and other people, but they don't apply to the people that really it should apply to. And that really can bother me. That's fairness and equality and so forth in the real sense of the word. So, if you're going to print money, give it to the people who need it. All right? Because that would at least help them survive. You've done enough psychological damage to this population between the lockdowns and between the constant yelling and screaming in the media and all of that cancel culture and boycotting and doxing and whatever else is out there. Just calling you names just because you don't agree with somebody on something. And not just names, not just like you're, a dummy or something. It's so toxic and so lethal, and people have found really creative ways to be mean to each other, that it's really just beyond what any of us thought we'd live to see. I never thought I would live to see what we're seeing. And the black pill is easy to take at this point. Things like secession, the Free State Project in New Hampshire comes to mind. Texas, they want to do Texit, right? California has been talking about this for a long time, to kind of go the other direction and get out of it. But I think a lot of us would go for it. You got the 5th largest economy or something like that. And I just think the United States is over. It's not a United States. It's a collection of states, blue states, red states. And I mean, you could see the results between the blue states and the red states. And those of you who aren't Republican or whatever, or not conservative, or not more toward the right, I don't know how to even phrase it anymore. Let me put it this way. The red state managers are way better than the blue state managers. And I'm not saying they're doing a lot of stuff on a macro level. They're not doing a lot of stuff that's very different, but they're doing enough stuff different. Like Florida, for instance, Governor DeSantis. I know people, you hear, there are a group of people that just hate DeSantis. And I go, he was ranked number 1, by the way, on the whole COVID crisis. He was ranked number 1. Cuomo was ranked last. So I would say, DeSantis is greater than Cuomo. Easy for me to do. Some people have a real problem with this because they become so black-pilled that they just think everything is so bad and everybody is so corrupt and they can't trust anybody. I get that, but life is better in Florida than it is in New York. Win for Florida. Win for Florida. Florida kids are going to school, right? They're still traumatized if they wear these diapers all day. And nobody's talking about all the collateral damage that everything will do and will continue to do. And this will bear out for years to come. I don't even talk about the vaccine. That's that's for Rockfin. So go over to Rockfin. I have posted something over there at Live Free or Die on Rockfin that I think you'll really enjoy. Medical doctor who has been in this for a long time, giving his opinions on all of that stuff in a way that's unfiltered and right at you. I mean, there's a good chance that they don't want us here. The evidence is growing, and I know people don't want to believe in conspiracies, or why would people, why do you think that? Well, the last year makes me think that they don't want us here. When I say they, fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. Globalists, oligarchs, whoever, fill in the damn blank. It's pretty easy to do. And if I'm wrong, then this has been the greatest public relations campaign to make me think something in the history of the world. I mean, these people aren't really hiding their agenda. They're just putting it out there. And the more and more people do just basic research, they could see there are bigger problems than worrying about if the Libertarian Party, for instance, could get their act together and do something. Or those wascally Republicans and their love for all things Chamber of Commerce. And don't even get me going on Democrats, because I can't even talk about Democrats. There may be a couple of Democrats out there that are nice people that got into government and thought they wanted to help people. Maybe they had a few JFK strains, maybe some populist enzymes or whatever. I don't know who they are or where they are, but most of them are gone. In the old days, they were called Blue Dog Democrats. I don't even know if they exist anymore. The point is that it makes you feel as though there's nothing you can do. So yeah, secession, sure, I'd be up for that. Yeah. Redistricting the country or whatever. Yeah. I mean, especially if they're going to bring in DC and Puerto Rico, right? It's just because they want power. They want to do everything they can to just shut down freedom and liberty, freedom of movement, freedom of sovereignty of yourself, never mind your state. I mean, with all this surveillance and all of this AI, it's easy to get black pilled. It's really easy. So you could take your black pill with me, or you can pretend that your little niche group that you're working within, all those cool people you're talking with each day who are really smart, no doubt they're really smart, but it is kind of like just shouting. Think of yourself on the beach and shouting at the ocean and expecting somebody on the other side of the ocean to hear you. Nobody's going to hear you. And in addition to that, you've got all of this noise and you've got this distraction and you've got people self-medicating like never before. This is a really crazy time to live in.